This is 1020s, a podcast from 1020 Marketing. 10 episodes, 20 minutes each. Because meaningful marketing gets to the point.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Bev. How are you?
Good. Welcome, everybody, I suppose, to 1020s.
To 1020s, the new podcast, which today is featuring our first guest.
Yes, we have a guest today, which I love for us. I love that for us. So a little bit of an intro. Something we talk a lot about, like at work, or this is really something I talk a lot about in general, is empathy and how the relationship between seller and consumer has evolved over time. And how if you want to actually resonate with potential customers, with your audience, you need to actually be a real person, which means you need to listen and you need to be able to connect to people. Because everyone is very wary of being sold to now, I would say, and they can see through the veneer really of sales. So I would say that is where listening and empathy comes in. That being said, our guest is a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Hailey Ben-Izhak, and she's been in sales for ages. She's really great at what she does, and she's very uniquely positioned to talk about this, I think. She's memorable in the best way.
Well, I'll just say that I met her online, I guess in October, and
Yeah.
I just told her now that she has changed my LinkedIn feed for the better.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, she's been great. So why don't we bring her in and
Yeah.
start the discussion.
Let's do it.
Hi, Hailey.
Hello.
There she is.
Oh,
Hello.
hi. Yay.
Hello.
It's you. Hi.
It's me. Hey, how's it going, Bev?
Pretty good. How are you?
I cannot complain. It's a nice sunny day, finally.
And you have a hammock behind
I
you.
sure
So,
do. Yes, I do have a
I
hammock.
mean,
I work from home, and I realized a little while ago that I had this hammock that was like not doing me much good in the winter in Toronto outside, and that I really like this hammock, and that I'm a grown woman and I can have a hammock in my office if I want
you
to.
absolutely can.
Yes.
Okay,
I
so
love it.
the premise of this podcast, as we've mentioned, is so it's 20 minutes. So we kind of like get to the nugget of it all, you know? But basically, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your sales background and where you work now.
Sure. Yeah, my background in sales is a long and winding road, starting with selling wrapping paper door to door for school fundraisers. I kind of realized at that point I might be onto something. I have kind of got a knack for it. And I grew up, and I worked at the mall, and I was really great at upselling popcorn. And I went and I worked in the professional world. I sold advertising. I worked with my husband. We had a photo booth business, and now I find myself selling software as a service in the home care industry, mainly to a lot of customers in the United States, mainly at the moment. And sales is sales, so it doesn't really matter what you're selling. You have to be able to communicate with people pretty effectively, and so I think that's why you have me here today.
So let's jump in. Let's explore this. Okay, so we're talking about sales as it relates to marketing. What do you think the most important thing is for a salesperson to connect with their targets?
I think there is a lot of synergy between what you guys talk about and what I do every day, and that is you have to speak in a way that people can listen. If you are not talking to people on their level with words that they can understand, that speak to the problems that they're having, that they're trying to solve, then you're not going to make the connection with them. And I think that's where I'm at.
So being relatable.
Be relatable, be a human being. That's it.
Yeah.
Can't
you
have
mentioned,
a lot of jargon.
yeah, and you mentioned speaking in a way that makes people listen, but I would add to that you have to be very good at listening as well in order to kind of fully understand the person, right?
What was that?
And understand how you're gonna.
Just
my
kidding.
God, Mark. I worried.
Yeah.
You got me worried. My computer messed up again.
Oh, no. I was making it
Mark.
funny.
It's so
Now we're
funny.
just messing with you.
It's so funny.
So yeah, I think it's important to be relatable. It's important to listen really well. There are different ways that people listen, right? There are people who are very quiet and they listen and they hear you and they take notes. And there are people like me who I can hear what you're saying, and I can sometimes come to the natural conclusion of what you're saying before you get there. So I'll respond very quickly. And those are, different approaches to listening. But as long as you're able to mirror back to a person what it is that they are telling you and sort of find the thread for what you need to tell them to what they need to achieve from what you're trying to tell them, that's the job, right?
It's really important to make sure the people know that they are being heard. It's kind of, they don't realize it until you kind of say it a lot of the time.
This is such an interesting point. So recently my wife got a new job. She's working in a store. Okay.
Oh, mazel tov.
And she's she's been doing it for a few months, and she's working in a home decor store. Okay. And one of the pieces of advice that she got was roll with the client. Like, you might think that you're not good at this, but really all the client wants to hear back from you is what they believe is right for them, that they've already expressed to you in some way. Right. And like, I don't think that's like the be all and end all response to selling, but it certainly helps, right? They just want validation for what they wanted at the end of the day to some degree.
Well, I mean, it depends on the types of sales that you're doing. But if somebody's in a home, if someone is in a home decor store, like I was just looking for a carpet the other day, and I knew kind of like an idea of what I wanted, either with color or style. And I went into a number of different carpet stores, home decor stores, and I was looking, and if you're able to articulate what you want, that's great. But sometimes people are not able to articulate what you want. And that's sort of where the craft of selling comes in, which is where you have to be able to like ask thoughtful questions that elicit a response that will reveal something that maybe the person hasn't been able to articulate well
100%,
in the past.
100%.
And so that's, again, where that empathy step comes in. And then to go back to that mirroring piece, mirroring isn't just repeating back what somebody said. It's kind of saying, I think what I'm hearing you say is this, and that sounds like this. Yes. Am I on the right track?
I didn't give the example justice. I'm not saying just repeat back. I'm saying make the client feel heard and add on your value.
It's so interesting how similar, I mean, obviously sales and marketing are so like intertwined, but like this is something we actively deal with on a regular basis, when figuring out what a client wants as well in their marketing journey as well.
Other than everything, because it's marketing.
Other than everything.
Other than everything, yeah.
I have a question for you. We, as an agency, often go through the process of acquiring software as a service for our clients, for our own needs, and all that sort of thing. And I find through that process, that there is almost always a disconnect between the sales process, the onboarding specialists, and then what happens next, right? Like,
and then what you get. Yeah,
exactly. Like, and I find it to be very difficult to know that what I'm about to commit to, is it actually what I'm going to be getting?
So that's where it comes. I mean, like that's a problem in the industry, I think, because a lot of salespeople sell the dream. I'm not like a dream seller. That's not how I do things, which is, I think, why I've been successful. I'll talk to people and I'll tell them what they're going to get. And I'll also say, do you want to know where it's not going to work? You want to know where like the fall is going to be? Do you want to know where people fail here? And I think that's important. And that may be a question that you want to ask when you're going through your buying process is, okay, you're selling me this dream. Where does it fail? Like where are your customers who have signed up for the software? Who's not using it the way that it's supposed to be used, and why? Yeah. And then you can probably get some good insight that way. And if they don't have a very good answer, if it's not very detailed, or if they don't know,
run in the other direction.
Well, yeah, perhaps. I would maybe ask somebody else for some advice at that point.
Yeah.
There's another piece here. A big part of this is authenticity, right? And I very much with you specifically, I feel like something I love about you, Hailey, is like, I love you too, Mark, but this is about Hailey for a second, is like what you see is what you get. Like she's a very real person, and people can tell when you are being authentic and when you are not being authentic, even if they cannot quite articulate it. And I think that's really how you can connect, because if you're not being authentic, then there's like an invisible kind of shield that goes up, or a wall almost.
Yeah, people are not stupid. That's what it comes down to. So
Yeah.
people have their own little BSO meter. And can I say that here in this safe space? But
Sure
people can tell when you're not being yourself. And you know, for me, what is authentically me is I don't want to ever give somebody something or force something on somebody that is not going to be right for them. And so I like to ask a lot of questions to sort of get to the heart of, you know, what is it that you're trying to solve? And then I don't want to info dump on people all the thing that I can offer you can do. I want to tell you, here's what the thing that I have does that meets your need. So
specifically tailored to you.
To that solution. And then like, you've got to walk this line as a salesperson. It's like, I know you're going to be talking to other vendors and my solution can do X, Y, and Z. But for what you're talking about, you want to make sure whatever you do can do A, B, and C.
What kind
There's
of
something you mentioned. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead, Bev.
Okay. We're so polite. Our
Canadian standoff.
I know. Hailey, you mentioned to me something of curiosity, having like an element of curiosity, which I think is I think people forget about that, but it's so important when connecting with people, having a sense of curiosity and not going in there with this idea of how you picture them, but with an openness.
Yeah, with openness. And, you know, when you go into a meeting, like everything I do these days is remote. And prior to this, everything I did was like over the phone. And you have to find a way to connect with people pretty quickly. And so you've got to be able to pick up on like little cues that they're talking to you about. It's like, oh, sorry, I'm late. I just had to drop off my kid to a thing. Oh, tell me a little bit about that. And then, you can relate. If you can relate with somebody on a human level, that helps. And being curious, not to the point of being nosy, is an important part of developing that empathy and making people feel like they're heard and like they're talking to a real person.
It's like the Ted Lasso school of sales right there.
Yeah, actually it is. It's, I love that show. It's great that you mention it. I think he's, it's a really good example.
I never got into that show.
Oh,
Sorry.
It's great. But there's a famous scene that's gone viral where he tells a story about how he felt as a kid. And what he realized was people were judgmental and not curious enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a nuts and bolts question, more than a philosophical question, which is, when you're going through the sales process, I'm actually curious to know like what that process looks like for a software as a service company. So, how is the outreach happen? How does the collection of leads happen? What is the follow-up throughout the process? Like, if you can summarize that, I'd be very curious to know how you guys, or if your profession handles it.
Sure. And I think it depends on like where you start in the sales cycle, right? So in software as a service, different organizations have different sales structures, and you'll see that there's like often there's like a BDR, that's business development. They're sort of doing more cold outreach. And then there's like full cycle salespeople who will do everything from cold outreach all the way through the end of the sales process. And then you're in like sales engineers who will demonstrate the solution. I'm more of like a full service kind of salesperson. You'll do some cold outreach. Hopefully it's personalized. It's not like spray and pray. I don't like that approach. You want to at least know who you're talking to. You get some nibbles. Then you go through different phases. So there's like the discovery phase, which is where you ask, where you get to demonstrate your curiosity, and hopefully you share a little bit about yourself, but you get a lot more about the person that you're trying to talk to. At the end of that phase, you should be able to determine whether or not it's worthwhile to move on to the next phase, which is sort of usually it's a demonstration. If you're a really good salesperson, your discovery is continuous, right? So you really want to make sure that you're continuing to do that discovery through these other phases of the process. After the demonstration, you want to get to like pricing, proposal stage, and then you go through like negotiation, and then it gets handed off to customer success for account management. You go to conferences, and that's the marketing.
Right. Yeah.
I have a less nuts and bolts question.
I hijacked it with a nuts and bolts question.
No. It's fine. It's good to have like a little bit of balance, I think. Oh, my question is about balance. So, I mean, as you know, you're an empathic person and you're doing this, much of your day involves speaking with people and listening to people and responding in an authentic way. And so I imagine this must be somewhat draining. And I want to know what you do at the end of the workday or just
Great
throughout
question.
the day. What do you do to like center yourself, create a sense of balance? Like, do you compartmentalize like work and non-work?
It's a really good question. And you're right. Like I spend a lot of my day in this environment, right? Talking to people on video conferencing. And a lot of the time I get very excited about either what I'm hearing or like the thing that I can do that's like, oh, I can do this thing. I know what you need. I can help you. And like I get really excited.
Yeah.
And that really is energy draining for sure. But the other thing that happens because of the authenticity and like the connection is like I make friends really easily. Like I collect people, I say. It's almost like if you were to go into my head, I've got like shelves of like these wonderful people who I've collected throughout the years, and being able to sort of create like rings, right? So if I'm in the center, we'll call it, this won't be the first time I've said this, but there's like the heliocentric view of the universe. I'm in the middle of it. Anyhow, so if we have me at the center, and then you have like your rings of necessity, right? Like my family is at the very closest ring, so they get my energy. Then you have like my work responsibilities. Then you have like you got your close friends. And then you have like all of this other peripheral stuff, and you have to figure out how much of your attention you're going to be able to give to all of those peripheral, I don't want to say distractions, because it's not distractions. It's kind of like what builds me and what makes me up. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, it's just knowing what my boundaries. What my boundaries. That's I know it's a word I'm working. I'm new with this word.
I didn't want to like
Boundaries.
put words in your mouth, but if that's the right word, that's great.
No, it's creating boundaries. Boundaries are new for me, so I'm just working on them. So thanks for the word. Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah, it is about creating boundaries and like knowing at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I can shut this off so that I can turn that on, and like also having time for myself. I will tell you that my dog is a big part of this. So like I have my dog. I take my dog for nice long walks, beginning of the day and the end of the day. And that just sort of like anchors me, right? It's like, okay, I've got time to like just let whatever unfold, and then I can come back to where I need to be in the moment.
Time flies when we're having fun. We're almost at 20 minutes. Do you have any like last sort of parting words or advice or friendly notes you'd like to share?
Not to put you on the spot.
Okay, so I wasn't prepared for that, but that's okay. If I wanted to leave you with some parting words, just be human when you're communicating with people, whether that's in like your marketing copy that you're putting out into the world, whether it's in a cold email that you're sending to somebody you've never spoken to before. Be mindful that that person is not expecting to hear from you, and just try and give them some value. And if you can't give them some value, like make it brief and get out of the way, so that when they do have time for you, they're not like, oh, this person is such a time suck, right? That's what I think it is.
I think that's very good advice.
Right. Well, super nice to meet you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This has
And,
been
we'll-
I love you.
Guys. Love you too.
right.
Okay.
Thanks
Take
so much
care.
for having me.
Ciao,
See you
ciao.
later. Bye.
So-
that was fun.
Yeah, that was great. She's great. She's got a lot of energy,
she
that's
is.
for sure. Yeah.
I knew she would be a fantastic guest because she's really good at filling space with words, but not just like not just any words. Everything has substance.
I hear you.
She's good at saying things and meaning things that she says.
100%. 100%. Well, good find and a good addition to the
Good
1020s, the 1020s growing list of guests.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, until
Okay.
next time.
Until next time. Bye,
Thanks, everyone.
peoples.
Bye-bye.
Bye.